This tester can be used to determine the general health of the ignition system and to help diagnose engine quits when hot or hot restart problems that can sometimes be caused by the ignition system. To perform a general ignition system test, turn the engine kill switch to the off position, remove the high tension lead from the spark plug, and attach it to the terminal on the ignition tester. Attach the tester alligator clip to a good engine ground. Turn the engine switch to the on position and pull the engine over smartly at least 250 RPM. Look for a steady spark pulse in the window of the tester. If spark is not present or is intermittent, check or reset the armature air gap and test again. If there's no improvement, isolate the engine from the equipment by unplugging the engine kill wire from the ignition armature and testing the system again. If spark is still not present in the tester window, there are two more things to check before replacing the armature. Number one, check the strength of the flywheel magnets. The magnets should be strong enough to hold a 10-inch number 2 flat blade screwdriver straight out horizontally. Number two, the ignition armature is an electrical component and must make a strong electrical connection to the engine block to complete a circuit. A problem can occur if corrosion sets in between the armature and the cylinder block mounting posts. To rectify, remove the armature and sand or file the contact points on the block and the lamination stacks. Remount the armature, set the air gap, and retest. If there is still no spark in the tester window, replace the armature. Turn the engine switch to the off position. Remove the high tension lead from the spark plug and attach to the terminal on the ignition tester. Attach the tester alligator clip to the spark plug terminal. Turn the engine switch to the on position and start the engine normally. Allow the engine to run to recreate the problem. If the engine begins to fail when hot, closely watch the tester window. As the engine coasts to a stop and there is spark in the tester window, the ignition system is not at fault. The 19368 ignition tester is a spark gap type tester. It directs the high voltage pulse from the secondary winding of the ignition armature to jump across an air gap, which is a predetermined resistance. In magneto systems, ignition armatures are step-up transformers that step up the voltage created in the primary winding of the armature to the thousands of volts necessary to jump across the air gap of the spark plug. There are no serviceable parts in the armature, so we test primarily for armature output. The air gap in the tester is a little over 4 millimeters. It takes about 5,000 volts to jump 1 millimeter through dry air. If the spark is visible in the tester window, this indicates the armature is capable of approximately 20,000 volts. The normal spark plug gap for Briggs & Stratton engines varies from about 1/2 to 3/4 of a millimeter or 20 to 40 thousandths of an inch, suggesting that it takes from 2,500 to 4,000 volts to jump the gap of a typical plug. The voltage requirement is actually higher because the spark plug fires at the end of the compression stroke. The compressed air and fuel mix increases the resistance the electrical energy must deal with. Voltage requirements almost double when starting a cold engine, but drop down to about 4,000 to 5,000 volts when the engine is running at the operating temperature. Suffice it to say, an available 20,000 volts is more than enough to handle most all operating conditions. There have been a variety of expensive electronic and digital devices developed over the years to test Briggs & Stratton ignition systems. This simple spark gap tester is still all that we require.